Tom Keene was thinking pleasantly, "The old man'll never know me. Never in the world." Far different indeed was the 17-year-old stripling who had left that same shack 10 years before. The smooth face was now clothed in a black beard that began close beneath the eyes and terminated in a square trim just below the chin. 6 feet and 2 inches of bony frame had broadened and deepened and hardened until Tom Keene stripped to 190 pounds of iron-hard muscle. But the physical changes had been the least of all. It was his brain that had developed. Greater, far greater, than the distance his eye glanced down to the shack from the mountain-top was the distance his brain looked back to find his younger self starting into the world for adventure greater than he could find in practicing the arts of woodcraft or tending his father's line of traps in the winter, or descending into the lower valleys of the cattle range to work in spring and fall roundups. So great was the change that he could hardly believe that he was the same man. It was another identity that had become his. Somewhere in the 10 years that other self had died, and the new Tom Keene had been born into the world, resourceful, cool-nerved, skeptical. He had worked with his hands 10 years before, but now those hands were no longer degraded by the cut and burn of a rope, because they must be kept supple for the cards, supple and practiced for the cards, so that a separate intelligence seemed to dwell in each fingertip. And the world was a most easy place to make one's way in if one had sufficient wits for it. It was so easy that it was criminal to keep entirely to the flowery path. Tom Keene, for instance, found money but no amusement in playing cards with greenhorns, and therefore he never did it. He chose rather to match his wits against men who were as much professionals as he, shrewd, fox-eyed men who could put their emotions behind a mask and keep them safely out of sight during the entire course of a card game. Falling in with such as these, he found that his course was to play the part of the rough-mannered simpleton until he had inveigled the expert into a game, and until the expert, as always happened, had purposely lost a few stupid hands, bait money. But when he began to trim Tom Keene, he found the yokel transformed into a dexterous trickster. The play might run very high in an encounter such as this, eagle against eagle, and though Tom usually won, he occasionally lost also, lost frequently enough to keep his money reserve low. He knew that he would always continue to lose, and that he could never be a truly great gambler because he could never become an entirely heartless machine. The beard masked him somewhat, but nothing could mask the fires in those black eyes of his once his enthusiasm was roused. If he kept to the game, it was not so much because he had the usual gambler's dream of the $1,000,000 tableful of boobs, as it was that he loved the cards for their own sake. Tom liked a straight game, letting chance favor who it would. But most of all, he loved to sit in with 3 or 4 of his own kind, each man making the deck all but talk, each perfectly aware that the others cheated, each determined to back his own skill against the best tricks of his competitors. And this battle carried on quietly, with all done smoothly, politely. Such an evening to Tom Keene was like a happy hour to the painter. He felt himself rise to the greatest heights, the inspired heights. For 10 years, then, he had followed the fortunes of life as they came to him by the medium of the gaming table. For 10 years he had constantly promised himself to return to the old place, take his father from labors that the aged man must now be growing too feeble to continue, and place him in comfort in some town. That good thought was the source of the cheery whistle of Tom as Major struck a long, fairly level slope, the last slope leading to the cabin of old Keene, and flew along it, rejoicing in the opportunity to stretch his legs after so many hours of